Colbyjack.net is proud to present From the Flames by Trisha M. Wilson. The people of the fire, the Blesa, led by their queens, have ruled the island of Alfeyju and oppressed the Driva, the people of the ice, for more than 16 generations. With the Drivian King in hiding and little hope on the horizon, the Driva looked to one person to save them from the vile Blesa, the Diviana. According to legend, the divinely gifted Diviana will one day overthrow the Blesa and restore the Drivian King to his rightful throne. But with the search having lasted for more than 400 years, will the Diviana ever come to light? Willow is the slave of the Raskpil family. But at the age of 4, 20 years have passed since her life irrevocably changed. Her existence is no worse than any other slave, but within, Willow wonders if there isn't something more she should be doing with her life other than serving the ungrateful. Ordered to travel with her master's family to Sondertoft, so her master's adult children can take part in an ancient rite of passage, Willow is shocked when she learns that she too must participate. Will she fail, as all before her have? Will she rise to the challenge and become stronger after passing through the flames? From the Flames, Episode 7. If I was correct, something would have happened, right? So I must have put them in the wrong spots. What did the plaque say exactly? Willow asked, looking around the room for inspiration. It said something about remembering what the world had taught me. Then there was a line about the 4 different elements. Then it said to match them with their enemy. Wait, it said natural enemy. Willow suddenly remembered. Ice and fire might not necessarily be natural enemies. Think! Reasoning out different arguments, again and again she assigned icicles to the elements on the walls. Still nothing happened. Growling in irritation, she dropped the icicles onto the floor in front of the pedestal and walked around the room, trying to come to an answer, but every idea she had seemed more illogical than the last. I'm getting nowhere. What am I doing wrong? Walking back to the pedestal, she gazed at the icicles, interchangeable at this distance. Sitting in front of the icicles, she arranged them so she could see their runes clearly. Okay, this time I'm going to really think about this. No more guessing. Natural enemy. That's the clue. Let's think this through, starting with Earth. Who is Earth's natural enemy? Supposing, of course, that Earth is nature. Images of the different parts of nature flew through her mind. Mountains, bluffs, hills, valleys, trees, and flowers. Any one of those things could be Earth. So what was their enemy? Fire's a viable choice because fire destroys the Earth, right? Willow's question rang throughout the empty room, but she received no response. Another enemy for Earth could be water. Willow reasoned. Water can erode the Earth, so let's say for now that Earth's enemy is water. Putting the icicle that had the symbol for Earth toward the wall that had the waterfall on it, she turned her attention to the next element. Ice. Who's ice's enemy? It can't be water, so all that's left is fire and earth. Ice and earth don't have a lot of contact, so that's probably not the answer. All I'm left with is fire. Putting the icicle on the floor in the direction of the firewall, she tried to decide which one to work on next, water or fire. Closing her eyes, she put her hand out and grabbed one. Opening her eyes, she saw that she had picked up water. Okay, water. Water's enemy is either earth or ice. Water lives alongside the earth, so it really isn't fighting with it. As for ice, water and ice can't live together. It's an either-or thing. So water's enemy could be ice. And if I got those right, then what I'm left with is Earth being fire's enemy. Does that make sense? Willow paused for a second to think. It does in a way. A small fire can be easily put out by dirt or earth. So yeah, it could be right. Reaching out to grab the next icicle, she saw that there were no more icicles or walls to match up. I hope this works, or I'm out of ideas, she said as she got to her feet. Bending down, she picked up the icicles and put them in their corresponding walls. When she placed the last icicle in its notch, Willow heard the rumble of rock scraping against rock. Surveying the room, she tried to find the source of the scraping noise. It wasn't until she looked at Fire's wall, however, that she saw the opening in the ice. Proceeding cautiously, Willow couldn't forget the vanishing stairs and the stone wall that had shut behind her the second she stepped through it. She looked through the doorway, being sure to keep her body in the ice room. She tried to look into the room, but the light from the ice room could only penetrate so far into the new room, and it wasn't enough to see the room clearly. Putting her head through the door a few inches, she still couldn't see anything. This isn't getting me anywhere, Willow said, impatient with herself. I can either stay in this room forever, or I can step through that door, hopefully complete the last trial, and find some way out. Is there really a choice? Bracing herself for whatever could be on the other side of the door, Willow stepped into the room. The second her entire body was through the door, the wall behind her became solid again, and flames suddenly flared in front of her. It's exactly like my nightmare, Willow thought as she stared at the bright orange flames. Solid stone wall behind her, fire before her. Even without looking around the room, Willow knew there would be no water to put out the flames. Panic tried to claim her, but she battled it back. Panicking isn't going to get me out of here, she said. I've got to think and remember and not panic. Squinting her eyes at the light, she could just make out something within the ring of fire, but she couldn't see what it was. The light of the fire was just too powerful. She wouldn't be able to see what it was until after she was inside the ring, or she figured out a way to douse the fire. Willow slowly and cautiously walked around the edge of the room, trying to see if there were any breaks in the flames. Not that she really thought the circle would be broken, but she had to look. Finally, ending up back where she had started, Willow thought back to the plaque. Only the brave of heart can pass the undying flame. Brave of heart? Of course, someone would have to be brave to make it through those flames. The next line said something about looking inside and having faith. But what should I have faith about? Have faith that I will be burned if I try to pass? Or maybe I should be certain that if I don't try, I'll be stuck in this room forever. Circling the scorching fire again, Willow tried to sort through her thoughts. There had to be some way to get inside without being injured, or else the sorceresses would never have created the fire. Stopping again where she had started, Willow said, Brave of heart and faith. These must be the key words. If I am brave and have faith that I will be able to pass and not be burned, perhaps I will pass through these flames unharmed. That has to be the answer. It's the only thing I can come up with, and since nobody else is here to try out my idea, I'll just have to believe. Closing her eyes, she looked inside of herself and willed herself to believe with every fiber of her being that the flames wouldn't burn her, and that she would pass through them in one uninjured peace. Eyes closed, and filled with a certainty and peace she had never felt before, Willow took a step toward the flames, and then another. Opening her eyes, she saw that the flames were directly in front of her. Knowing that she wouldn't be harmed, Willow took another step, this time stepping directly into the flames. Not stopping. Now that she'd started, she felt the flames move out of her way as she walked, encircling her when she was in the middle of the flame wall, but always moving away from her. When she had finally walked out of the flames, she saw the course she had just taken disappear. The flames looked undisturbed, as if she had never passed through them. Focusing on the object in the center of the flame circle, she saw that it was a staff. But the bottom two-thirds appeared to be on fire. The flames were the same color as the flames surrounding her. As the fire went up the staff, it turned purple. and led to the top of the staff, which was blue, ice blue. Looking as if it was made of ice, there were 2 icicle arcs, one over the other, coming from opposite sides. Inside of the smallest arc was a deep green clear stone, appearing to hang in midair. As Willow got closer to the staff, the red of the flames, the blue of the ice, and the green of the stone became deeper and more intense in color. Intuitively knowing that if she touched the staff she wouldn't be hurt, she reached out her hand and grabbed hold of it. The second her hand touched the staff, the light emanating off the staff became blindingly bright. Willow's eyes watered. Then a woman's voice echoed in the room. "You are the savior of your people. Use your powers wisely and always have faith in yourself. All you need shall be revealed in due time. But for now, realize your immense worth and embrace your destiny." The second the voice stopped speaking, the world around Willow started to shake. The ground beneath her rose and fell unpredictably. The wall shook and rumbled, making Willow worry that they'd collapse, burying her under the rubble. All around her there was a booming sound echoing off the walls. The booms were so loud she thought she'd go deaf. Boulders fell from the ceiling, falling into the flames which still surrounded Willow. Instead, however, of this falling debris putting out the fire, the flames grew in size, feeding off the boulders. Leaning heavily against the staff, she was barely able to keep her legs underneath her. Before she could find her balance, however, the light, which had eased during the woman's words, grew in brilliance and intensity. Finally it became so strong she had to close her eyes against the light. The second her eyes were shut, she felt her body move. The world around her suddenly sounded different from the room she'd been standing in. Slowly and cautiously, she opened her eyes, unsure as to what new trial might await her. She saw, however, that there was no new trial. Instead, she was in the clearing where the stone altar sat apparently undisturbed in its bed of grass. Nothing around her seemed to have changed while she had been underground. Looking at the staff, she saw it glow once more and then transform. The fire, ice, and green stone disappeared. In its place, there was a light-colored wooden staff with images carved into it. Instead of being a straight staff as most were, the wood separated, curved out, and then came together at the very top of the staff, creating a hollow circle within the wood. In the center of the circle was a gem which appeared to change color every time Willow moved the staff, even a little bit. Pulling her eyes off the staff, and with the images of the transformations she had just seen still in her head, something made her glance down at herself. What she saw made her gasp with shock. Her clothes, her plain, coarse clothes, that had so shamed her when compared to the clothes of her fellow searchers, were not as they'd been when she'd passed through the altar and started down the stone steps. Her washed-out brown garb was gone. Willow was instead covered from neck to toe in lilac purple. The lilac purple gown reminded Willow of thousands of lilac flowers, so close together that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the next started. She had only seen such a display once in her life. She had been picking berries in the forest when she stumbled upon the tightly packed flowers in a field. The sight had taken her breath away and humbled her. This gown could have almost been those thousands of lilac petals, carefully sewn together to craft this marvelous and unique creation. For never before had she seen such a color in cloth. Willow ran the cloth through her fingers, and at once she realized that the color of the fabric wasn't the only thing that had changed. Where once she'd been clad in rough wool and an inexperienced weaver's worst linen, now she was clad in the finest fabric she'd ever seen. Made with none of the normal imperfections that even the most experienced weaver couldn't avoid, the linen fabric was flawlessly smooth. And the weave was so tight and fine that Willow was unable to even see a single linen thread. But even with the tight weave, the fabric was still impossibly soft and flexible. This was something even the best weavers couldn't manage, making the cloth even more miraculous. Nothing Willow had ever seen compared to this. Even the finest fabrics Mistress drooled over when she visited the yearly market came nowhere near the fineness and impossibly high skillfulness of this cloth. It wasn't until she had gotten over how soft and amazing the cloth was that she realized that her dress wasn't only one color. Her sleeves, the bottom edge of her skirt, and her entire top were embroidered with gold-threaded designs. But again, the embroidery was not of the quality of what common embroiderers, or even the most skillful, could produce. This embroidery was much finer, so fine that Willow was unable to see the individual stitches. Even as she looked for the stitches, she mumbled in awe, "Surely not," for her eyes were trying to tell her that there were no individual stitches. "But that's impossible. There must be stitches." Peeling back one of her heavily embroidered sleeves, she looked for knotted threads and the various kinds of stitches that even the best embroiderers couldn't avoid. But there was no evidence of stitches or knots. The back side of the sleeve was as flawless and continuous as the front. "Impossible!" she breathed again, unable to believe her eyes. Flipping the sleeve back down, she closely studied the actual design apparently painted onto the cloth. Within a 5-inch square, Willow saw animals of the sea, air, and land, fire, ice, water, and nature. All were interwoven in a way which only one looking very close would be able to see the different elements distinctly. As her dress gently swirled around her legs, she received a glimpse of her feet and was again surprised at what she saw. Brand-new boots had replaced her old, worn, holey, almost too small shoes. Made of buttery, smooth, and soft leather, they fit her feet perfectly. Not a single stitch was visible, making it look as if it were made of one continuous piece of leather which had no beginning and no end. Taking a tentative step, they felt like a second skin, molded so perfectly to her feet they were. They too were gold embroidered, matching the dress perfectly. While Willow wasn't able to see herself in a mirror, she felt like a princess decked out in these clothes. These items were for someone important, someone that was going to change the world. These were not the clothes of a slave. "But you aren't a slave anymore," a little voice within Willow said. "Remember what Amalek said? He said that if the chosen one was a slave, then they would immediately become free, and so would their children. That means you're free." "I'm free?" Willow asked aloud, not knowing exactly what that really meant. It had to be better, however, than being forced to do others' bidding, or never knowing if she would be sold or traded because she'd made some mistake. The wind picked up around her, making the trees rustle. A sudden noise snapped her out of the awe and amazement her mind had been clouded with, and reminded her that time was running out. This work is released under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Remix it, re-record it, transcribe it, share it. Just don't sell it or change the terms of the license. Your creation must be released under an Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.